my god, we're back in the woods. Hello, Europe. It's like noon. No, it's actually 1 o'clock here in Virginia. And I'm gonna spend the first minute or so of this scaring the regular people away. You know, making sure that people think this is a very boring, very normal stream. That there's no crazy talk. I'm not gonna get into any wild conspiratorial dialogue or anything, you know. Gotta make sure people think this is just an average, everyday, normal, regular walk in the park, literally. You know, when they click on this VOD later after it's done. Because being at 1 p.m., I probably am not going to have a whole ton of viewers on this stream. I'll probably stream again later in the day, also at a campfire. But that's going to be so late that nobody from Europe could possibly see it. So, you know, hello to Europe. Hello to the whatever Americans are on lunch break right now, I guess. Or my stay-at-home friends. On this stream, I'm planning to get into some real shit. Some real deep thoughts. Real contemplation. Real wild, out-of-pocket speculations on the state of society and the world. So you better be ready. You better be ready to go deep. Nice to actually be able to catch me live. Yes, I try to stream at every different time of day so that every part of my audience all around the world has a shot, you know? As long as I do this often enough, I think everybody will get a shot. But I do have audience literally all over the world, so it's difficult to ever pick a time. Like, if you look at my YouTube stats, I have almost uniquely like no real time of day that is the most, when I get the most hits. It's just like pretty consistently an all-day thing. So yeah, that's just the product of a global viewership. So I'm going to talk to the world today about some very American issues, about the state of America that I've been thinking about, particularly the state of Virginia. Wow, I just saw a red, probably a cardinal, the Virginia state bird, right as I said the word state of Virginia. That's phenomenal. I wish that was on camera. Yeah, I'm gonna be talking about some deep state tactics type shit. Asking if I listen to metal still. I will tell you stuff like that, questions like that. If you submit super chats, I will go on rants about stuff like that, just like random topics. The way I've been doing these streams is I sort of just rant about what I have on my mind that I've been thinking about, and then if people super chat me stuff, I'll start talking about that too. But for now, I'm going to be talking about, you know, what's on my mind. So if you want to hear about my thoughts on anything else, supers are the way to go. Anyway, I'm going to be talking about the kind of stuff on the stream that could get me killed. So I'm going to make it very clear that I am not suicidal, and I'm not in any danger of death anytime soon. You know, I've got no health concerns. I've got no health risks. I don't do risky things. I'm not somebody who gambles with my life, except in that I talk about things that could get me killed. So if I die anytime soon, it's because a rich person doesn't like that I'm telling the truth to the people, that I'm giving power to the people. I do consider it sincerely dangerous. I sometimes really try to avoid talking about, you know, anything that could cause a stir in the socio-political outlook of society. And I know nothing I say is like necessarily original, but being another person saying it, I just think anybody who talks about this stuff is at some kind of risk. And I don't have protection, you know. I don't have I just saw a lizard. I don't have people around to guard my ass. So that's why I have to be like, look, You know, I'm at risk, but only from rich people who don't like what I'm saying. You know, I'll go over some myths. You know, as a trans woman, people will say if I were to die, they'll be like, oh well, you know, obviously she killed herself because trans people always kill. That's like a 41% chance. That statistic's not real. The statistic is not true. It's been disproven all kinds of times. I am like a campaigner against suicide, if anything. I mock suicide. I laugh at people for their suicidal thoughts. I bully people out of it. I am a anti-suicide advocate. I cannot pull out a life insurance policy because it's on record that when I was 20, I told a therapist that I had suicidal ideations and had tried to kill myself when I was 8. The method being putting clothespins on my nose and mouth to try to suffocate myself, and when I realized it was painful, took them off. Not a realistic suicide attempt, obviously. I am extremely pain averse. I am not a person who would ever... I am terrified of death. Even seeing death in TV shows freaks me out. I have no desire to die. Now also, stereotypes about hikers going out in the woods. I only ever go to safe places. I go to national parks. I go to well-guarded campgrounds. I go to pretty much only government or you know, privately owned by big corporations. So, you know, campgrounds. So I'm not going to risky, dangerous places. I don't go on climbs or hikes. You know, I'm at a park that people bike through right now. So, if I die, I was killed by a rich person. Bro, 20 people are watching, don't worry. Well, my VODs usually get a lot more views than my live streams do. But aside from the number of views, you never know what is going to suddenly get a whole lot of attention. You know, I have to treat every single thing I do as though it could be the thing that suddenly blew up. You know, I have to always remind everybody that all of my anime content is on the We Watch Anime channel, because most people don't even know it exists. You know, I have to always remind people that they can, you know, get rant requests through super chats. Like, every single time I gotta treat it like it might be the first time you've ever seen my face before, and also it might be the time that my face gets seen the most by anyone ever. It's very unpredictable. Why or how? Have I been contacted by a rich corporation? No. I've been blacklisted by rich corporations before, but I've never been, I haven't been contacted by any recently. No, I'm just going to talk about things that, I'm basically about to commit, like, race traitorism, you know? Talking about stuff that white people do that's evil. It's been on my mind because of the Drake versus Kendrick beef. I've been thinking a lot about Drake and why he exists. Why someone like that could amass so much money and power while being such like, how do I put it? So I think when you're at the higher echelons of power, you really understand that there's like a cutoff in how much someone can achieve just on the basis of like being good. You know, at some point you have to become a business person. Like, in this world, the only form of power that really means anything is money. Like, because you can use money to fuck people over completely. You can use money to buy someone's death. You can use money to, you know, buy someone out of their ability to live where they live. You know, you can manipulate someone's health or the health of a whole community. You can do basically anything with enough money. And the only thing that stops people is that if you do enough fuck shit, someone will kill your ass, because it's just in their best interest. And at the highest level of power, I think there is a lot of wariness about like who you can or cannot pull the trigger on, right? Like if somebody is not very influential, not very popular, suspect in some kind of way, it's easy to get rid of them. That's why I had all that precursor stuff about like, you know, I'm not suicidal, because it's very easy for me to imagine that as soon as I started amassing any kind of power in a cultural sense or in a you know, a sense of actually having money, people would look at me as someone who's easy to get rid of. You know, it's like, well, this is a weak trans woman, you know, who goes off in the woods by herself. Like, disappearing her would be easy. And I'm here to say, it's not like all those stereotypes are not true, or at least they're not true about me. You know, I would not disappear except that someone wanted to get rid of me. I've been everything I do, I've been doing for a long time, you know, so it's not like I would suddenly trip up and be gone, other than someone wanted me gone, you know. Why would anyone want to hit on you? No offense, but you don't have that much influence. That's what I'm saying. I'm trying to say that if I had enough influence, I might get killed. I'm trying to tell you that. So how does one become more influential? Like, how does one grow their level of influence? One way is by paying for things. Just literally making things happen with money. That is influence. But also affecting the ways that people spend their money, affecting the ways that people think about their money. I do that. I do that without even making money in the process. I'm not very effective at getting money to come to me. I am effective at getting people to change the way that they spend their money. And this has caused problems for me before. Putting out a hit, you know, we could talk about it in the literal sense of making me disappear, but you can also put out a cultural hit on somebody, which happened to me with Crunchyroll, where I had this massive video, Dear Crunchyroll Stop. It's the last video I ever had that was a big hit. It had over 1 million views, and it was just me complaining about Crunchyroll, basically using the fact that High Guardian Spice was controversial that day, the announcement of it was controversial that day, to complain about every problem I had with Crunchyroll as a platform. The biggest one being that they were still using Flash instead of HTML, and they had apparently been planning to roll that out like 6 months later, but my video caused them to roll it out immediately because so many people were canceling subscriptions over my complaints that it was like a legitimate problem for them. Now, before I made that video, I had been flown to Crunchyroll Expo and hung out with the media manager who thought he was going to eventually be leader of the company one day. You know, I had a deal through them where if people clicked on my link, you know, I would make $7 or whatever for every 7 people who, you know, signed up or something like that. Like, I had a relationship with Crunchyroll. I made that video. I stopped having a relationship with Crunchyroll. I stopped being invited to things. I stopped being contacted by industry people, you know, because I fucked with their money. So when you fuck with people's money, you have to expect that they are going to try to get rid of you, whether it's in a cultural sense or in a literal sense. Now, in the cultural sense, everybody who criticized High Guardian Spice was basically written off as like right-wing like, you know, people who are just angry at blue hairs or whatever. And this was pre-transition for me, so I was easy to group into that category, you know. Now, post-transition, I watched High Guardian Spice, ended up kind of enjoying it, and made a video defending it. By that point, I'd already gotten my hit on Crunchyroll, so I had no reason to care about them anymore. It was just about celebrating the actual, you know, what talent was in the show, what trans voices did contribute something of some merit to the world through its creation, regardless of whether it was just a terribly bad idea, particularly for Crunchyroll to do. I really wish that I wish better for the showrunner, Ray Rodriguez. I wish better for them because their career's been pretty shot after that, um, which is really unfortunate. Butthole Weeb with $5. Thank you, Butthole Weeb. Rewatched our Gosick review. Talks on gender. Early in your transition. Talk about that. Also, why anime faves such as Love Live for me speak to people. Yeah, I remember. Do I feel happier after transitioning? Oh, absolutely. But to answer that question, yeah, early in transition was when I first met Butthole Weeb here, and we watched the first half of Gosick and did a podcast about it, which is what he's talking about. And I definitely remember talking a lot about gender, particularly because I was so surprised at, like, for me, I think this is somewhat unique to me as an anime viewer, but like, gender was such a hang-up for me up until transition that I did not project myself onto female characters because I just looked at it like I fundamentally cannot see myself as a woman because I'm not. You know, like I just thought there was something. I thought that the difference between man and woman was so vast that like it's that like to project your, if you see a woman as like relatable, it just means that you want to date her. It was like basically the way I looked at it, you know. So I, when it came to anime, like I kind of was forcing myself into a box of saying that like, oh, I relate to these guy characters, and there were almost none that I could relate to. Pretty much just like Madarame from Genshiken, because he was just such a hot-blooded otaku, you know? Like characters who were just ridiculously single-mindedly, passionately driven. That was the ones that I connected with the most. But like, once I unchecked that and like, you know, saw myself differently and was like, okay, well, there's actually tons of girl characters that I do relate to that I just, you know, put this like mental block between myself and them, and it made it a lot more evident why I like anime. Obviously I relate to all these characters, but just was like probably the first one that springs to mind being Yunochi from Hidamari's sketch. Like, my enjoyment of Hidamari's sketch was basically that I felt exactly like Yuno when I was in high school, but I just considered myself as, you know, being a man and therefore fundamentally different. Like, there's something maybe just in the fact that I was attracted to the characters in the show, that to me means like, oh, I can't be related to them and attracted to them, you know? That just doesn't make sense to me. I don't think most people have these hang-ups to the degree I do. Like, I think most people do just kind of naturally relate to characters that are the same gender as them because they tend to have more similar experiences. But I don't think it's nearly as like much of a mental block where you're gonna be like, oh, well, I do relate to her, but she's a girl, so that's weird, you know, or something like that. So when Landon and I did this podcast, like, there was so much that I saw as similar between the male character and Landon that I was like, well, surely you must see yourself in this guy. And I saw a lot of myself in the girl. I can't fucking Victorique. And it was funny because as the conversation goes, Landon's just like, no, I also relate to Victorique. Like, that's the character who I see myself in, not the guy. And I was like, huh, fascinating, you know? Like, it was just my expectation that, you know, that you would be projecting onto him just because you had like a bunch of obvious similarities in upbringing, you know? But, so I think that's why the gender conversation came up so much in our Gosick review. Alright, that's enough for that rant. Back to what I was talking about. Drizzy Drake and his $500 million and Kendrick's accusations at him. The ones that I've been thinking about the most are about Lucius, the guy who runs Universal Music Group, and the relationship between him and Drake. And the fact, so Drake has a lifelong deal of like everything he does is owned by Universal. Everything, every appearance he makes, every photo of him that exists, they own it in exchange for him being very rich. And Drake has done lots and lots of reinvesting. You know, he owns tons of shit. He just sold all of his mansions in LA. That's pretty funny. You know, he had like the most expensive house in Beverly Hills or whatever, and sold it, left the country, planning on hanging out in Canada for a while, I guess, and laying low. Who could blame him? Well, you can definitely blame him for plenty of things. So, I was thinking about why would they want to have put so much on this dude? You know, like, why would they have wanted to bank on a guy who is doing all of these darker underbelly things, you know, as opposed to trying to promote more positive messages, or even just more a greater diversity of messages, right? But if I'm looking at it from the perspective of the owner of Universal, like, if I've got one dude who, let me back up actually. Music is competitive inherently because there's only so much time in the day, and you can only listen to one song at a time, unless your brain is broken like mine, and sometimes you listen to two songs at the same time. But that's another thing. You know, most people, they're not listening to music literally constantly. You guys probably aren't right now, unless you got it playing in the background while you're watching this. In which case, tell me what you're listening to. But most people, you know, they're not always listening to music. They only have so much time in the day to listen to music. So they're just trying to, they're trying to have exactly the right song to listen to for whatever state of mind they're in. And for me, who has very eclectic moods and a very eclectic music taste, there are times where I just sit there like fucking trying to find the song I want to hear for 15 minutes, you know, like just feeling away and not being sure how to get through it without music. But I know there's a sound I need, but I can't find the sound, you know. Most people aren't willing to struggle like that. It is legitimately hard, even if you know a lot of music. Like, I have to go through that catalog. I haven't memorized every band I've ever listened to and can recall them at a moment's notice. It is difficult to find the music you really want to listen to. So, it is in the interests of the people who sell music to make that process as easy as fucking possible. How do we make it really easy for the audience to find the music that they're looking for? Just throw it on, throw and go, and they're good. Well, the streaming era has helped with this a lot. Algorithms have helped with this a lot, because most people just kind of have a fairly generic conception of like pleasant sounds. Usually it's like a combination of stuff you grew up with and stuff that just sounds good. Everybody knows an 808 synthesizer sounds good. Ever since the thing was invented, it's been used in popular music heavily, still heavily used, you know, like it's just a sound people like, so it's always going to work. And so there's a combination of, you know, classic sounds and inventive sounds. You always have to have some kind of clash of old and new to make something successful. It can't just be totally out of pocket, some shit nobody's ever heard, because that's going to be too weird for most people, until it gets incorporated with something old, you know, where somebody takes a 70s pop song and remixes it with that new sound on top of it. Now you've got something that can be popular again. So, with it being so difficult to make something that's going to resonate with the widest number of people possible, and with all that competition for time, you know, boiling it all down as much as possible makes it a lot easier for, again, the people selling music. And it also makes it easier for listeners to be lazy about music. Like, whether you normally would have been somebody who seeks it out or not, having the algorithm deliver things to you is, like, you know, fairly, it's something that makes the whole experience more streamlined, we'll say. So, like, if you generally like hip-hop music, you know, you grew up listening to hip-hop radio, and then you go on Spotify and you put on a hip-hop playlist, you're probably going to generally like most of what it plays for you if it's similar enough to the, you know, the type of shit you like. And it gets pretty good at, you know, based on what you skip or what you finish, figuring out what you do or don't like, and giving you more of that. Now, Drake, generically, is the thing that the most people liked when the streaming era started that wasn't Taylor Swift. You could probably pretty much break it down into, you know, people who like excessively white music and people who like to pretend that they are not white. Those are the two biggest categories of music listeners in America, maybe the world. Well, then you've got like Spanish music. That's just like dance, you know, dance hall and Spanish music. That stuff hits pretty worldwide too. But in the 2010s, when streaming's getting big, you know, it's Taylor Swift and Drake. These are the two artists that everybody has to compete with for the same time, the same amount of people's lives, you know, that same pocket of when they are listening to music. And so you've got people who are successful just as like direct alternatives. Like, if you don't like Taylor Swift's lyrical content or like production style, Carly Rae Jepsen is there to be your alternative. It's not that different, but you know, it's different. it's different enough that it hits a different pocket, you know. And like, there's no one artist who is just so unbelievably successful that they transcend every group of people. Like, big as music is, and it is one of the biggest, most transcendent, you know, media forms, none of it reaches everybody. I'm sure in my audience, there's probably not a lot of Taylor Swift or Drake fans. And most of my knowledge about them is because I've watched so much analysis of music over the past decade. You know, if it wasn't for Todd in the Shadows, I probably would not have an opinion about Taylor Swift or Drake, if I'm being totally honest. Todd in the Shadows and The Needle Drop, Anthony Fantano. Like, if these two people weren't talking about these artists for the last 10 years, I might not know about them at all. But like, because they've been so massive, I've heard about them constantly. I know their entire life stories. I know everything they've been through in the last 10 years, actually. And, you know, so it creates this sense of relatability where you start to feel like you have even if you don't fucking pay attention at all, even if you don't listen to the music like me, you still feel like you have a relationship with these people just because you've heard the fucking name for so long. You know, like, I've been hearing the names Taylor Swift and Drake since I was in high school, and I am 33. So that's quite some time. And it took a while before either of them had a song that I liked. But eventually Taylor Swift had Blank Space, and eventually Drake had Nice for What. And so, you know, I couldn't say, oh, I just absolutely hate Taylor Swift or Drake. It's like, I don't know, I'm out here singing along to the couple of these songs, so can I really say that I hate them that much? Yes, I can say that I hate them that much, because they're terrible fucking people. Everything that's ever come out about them is just awful. Why? Why do you want terrible people at the head of everything? Part of it is game recognized game. I mean, anybody who's trying to make the most money possible. So, like, in the effort of trying to make the most money possible, I talked about this in my Kendrick and Drake beef stream. I talked about how, like, you kind of have to commit some kind of heinous crimes to become a billionaire. And you also have to be trying to do something that most people would not try to do. Like, There's no reason to try to have billions of dollars other than the pride that comes from being preposterously rich, I guess. But you have to do so much fucking people over. You have to, you know, even if you're making things great for some people, you're fucking over other people in the process. You have to at some point decide that you have enemies and you're just going to kill them. You know, like to reach that level of power to where you're just unfuckwittable. So like, you know, anybody who's got that much power, I cannot trust it. I can't help but think that everyone else in society is basically pawns in the chess game of billionaires. And Drake and Taylor Swift are important pawns. And it's because they are motivated. They are motivated to take from other people. That's what makes them good targets, is their motivation to take. Because if you're trying to take the most, if you're trying to have the most, you need the people helping you make that to also want to have the most. They need to be people who are willing to stand just below you, thinking that one day they're going to be you. You know, that the day you show weakness or the day you're dead, they will be the new you. Think about, if you're a wrestling fan, you probably easily understand this. Think about Triple H and Vince McMahon. Like, Triple H put himself ruthlessly into the position that there was no question that when Vince McMahon was no longer in charge of the WWE, it would be Triple H. That's the mentality that people like Taylor Swift or Drake have towards the people who own these music groups. They're thinking like, because I am amassing all of the power, I will be the most powerful one day. But to have all that power, you have to take it from everywhere else. Power comes from everywhere. So to have all of the power, you have to take it from everywhere. So where are Drake and Taylor taking power from? The power they're taking is from other artists. They're taking it from anybody else who could be in their spot. And you'll hear this phrase a lot. There's room at the top. There's room at the top for more than one person. Unless your definition of the top is that there is only one. And there are a lot of people who think that way. A lot of people who want themselves to, who think in some fucking bizarre fantasy that they themselves could be number one or will one day. You know, those people who think who think that there should be or could be a just number one person, they're the problem. They're the ones empowering that kind of behavior, because they themselves, if they could, would put anything and anyone under boot to get to that number one spot. That's the mentality you have to have. You have to say, nobody else can be up here with me. And so when you see that there is a number one, when you see that somebody is telling you, you know, nobody else can have this, it's all mine. Well, yeah, everybody's gonna want to kill that guy. You know, like, everybody else is like, well, what the fuck about me? What am I doing while why do you get everything? You know, fuck you. I want some of that. So I think it's almost inevitable that somebody's going to try to be number one. And it's also inevitable that everybody else is going to try to tear that person down. If you're very comfortable being like number 5 or number fucking 3,000 or number fucking 20,000, you're still in an amazing position. And that's most rich people. Most of those billionaires, they're not trying to be number one. Because you know who was? Jeff Bezos. That guy was just trying to be the richest guy. He did it, fucked off. Did it, he did it. What do you do after that? Nothing. There's nothing else to do. You know? Other than just live your life. Other people have chased it. Other people, you know, I don't think Elon Musk is trying to be the richest person. I think he's trying to be the most influential person, which is very unfortunate because his opinions fucking suck. I really hope he gets raped. That would be funny. J.K. Rowling can come too. You know, these are the billionaires who are going to kill me. It's going to be Elon Musk or J.K. Rowling. They do not like trans people. They'll be all over those statistics. I guarantee it. But they're evil. They're like child eaters. You know, they deserve all of the worst things that could happen to them. Their evil is like, you are not capable of being evil the way that people with a lot of money and power are. You just can't. Like, you could go fucking literally cut as many throats as you possibly can, and you'll get shot to death by cops before you've committed as much evil as any billionaire. Full stop. You can't commit as much evil as somebody who has that much power and money. So, why do they want Drake? Why do they want Taylor? Because they will fuck over everybody else and destabilize the power base, allowing you to stay at the top. Because they think that they'll just inherit that position once you're gone. And eventually, when they get old, they'll realize that they can no longer command culture from the standpoint of being popular. They now have to foster the next generation of popular and take a step down from being the public face of power and instead be the behind the scenes power, where you find people like Diddy or fucking, you know, Suge Knight before he was in prison all the time, or Dr. Dre. Now, I'm not trying to accuse Dr. Dre of anything, because I haven't heard anything to accuse Dr. Dre of. If I had to guess, I think he's just like gay and doesn't want people to know about it. Sometimes people are so insecure about something that actually isn't that bad. Like, people keep talking about Kendrick having being the living embodiment of short man complex. Like, being short's not a bad thing, you know. I understand why people might consider it unfortunate, but I don't think it makes your life bad. Unless you become insecure about it. But you know, some people are just like, I can't let anybody know that I fuck men, so I have to have enough money to pay off everybody in the world, you know, to preserve my image of being the hardest G of all time, inspiring generations, or whatever the fuck people want to be known for. But usually they're just like trying to, you know, they're just trying to own as many mansions and cars as possible and live a fancy life and spend money emotionally and, you know, basically not have to grow up or be responsible. Like, that's the main reason to get rich, is to not have to, like, when you are responsible because you don't have money and you're trying to live long without money, you learn about, like, all the different ways you have to change and adapt and be better in order to, like, continue living. And if you can just throw money at all your problems, you don't have that. You don't gain that, you know. You just keep throwing money at it and trying to make it go away. And a lot of people who are chasing money, they're chasing that ability. They want to be able, they think it will give them freedom to be able to throw money at their problems. But it won't, because you won't gain the emotional growth. Like, you'll gain the cars, but you won't feel anything, you know. It's the same exact experience that poor people have buying lottery tickets. It's just, you know, it looks a little fancier. That's enough for some people. I don't know. It's hard for me to even, like, I've always had a hard time imagining, like, what would I even want to, like, what do I think is cool to own that would be worth needing hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars to buy, you know? Like, I can't help but find it inherently lame to even, like, want those things. But I understand on the level of, like, investment. You know, Jay-Z buying his art pieces that appreciate in value, being upset at himself for buying cars or whatever. You know, Kendrick Lamar's whole we grieve fuck, what's the name of the song where he keeps saying I grieve different because he's like, I bought mansions and cars just to, you know, I got pissed off and I bought a Rolex and I fucking wore it once and now I feel like an idiot. And I'm like, yeah, I'm glad I've never had. I actually have had that experience, but on like the level of buying anime figurines, you know, like for $100 to be like, why did I buy this? I could have done something cool with this $100. Could have reinvested this $100 in my future. No. You get rich or you get debt. That's how the world works. And you're not getting rich. I'm not getting rich unless the people decide that I need to be rich. You know, if the people were like, this person needs the power, they're probably not going to do that. People probably think I should not have any power because I'm a loose cannon. I'm out of control. I'm unpredictable. Nobody can tell what I'm going to do or what I'm thinking about. So they don't want to let me have the reins of society. But like, imagine, right? Imagine if Drake didn't exist, or if instead of Drake, like, putting out a project every 6 months that's got 22 fucking songs that clog up your algorithm all the time, if instead, like, they were pushing a whole bunch of different artists, right? Like, let's say that Universal had 20 different rappers that they were pushing. There is space for this at the top. I listen to hundreds of musicians. I pay for, you know, I pay for Spotify, and, you know, my dime is divided amongst a bunch of people, all of whom can make a living off of music. But imagine if they all had the same opportunity, right? Like, if instead of it being Drake gets 9 out of 10 and then there's 9 rappers that get 1/10, if everybody got 1/10. Let's say that 5 of those rappers don't like the guy who runs Universal. They don't like the decisions he makes. And they have now made enough money that they can make their own label. They can just go start their own business. And then Universal loses half of their artists. They don't want this. If they have one guy who will always work with them, who will sign over his life literally, and he's willing to just churn out as much music as you can give him, and you can use algorithms, you can hire a team of writers to ensure that this guy will always have hit songs, and you don't have to pay 20 other dudes, what guy are you gonna pick? Are you gonna pick the guy who's gonna redistribute all of his money to the hood and create a power base that eventually destabilizes you? No. You're going to pick the degenerate gambler and pedophile who's going to throw all of his money at building the biggest mansion that Toronto has ever seen and use it as a place to traffic 15-year-olds. So, that's why Drake. It's not incidental that Drake is a billionaire and a sex criminal. Not a billionaire, half a billionaire because he's a gambling addict. But it's not incidental that Drake has an enormous net worth and is doing heinously illegal things and is empowered to do this because, you know, it's to the benefit of the people in power that they have a sociopath as their lead guy, you know, a face of the operation. And Drake essentially represents the gentrification of rap music. And what I mean by this, there's a lot of videos about Drake's past. He's a dude from an affluent, as he described it in a video where he's a teenager, an affluent Jewish neighborhood, an affluent Jewish private school. You know, his grandmother is white. There's a clip of her saying OKKK for some reason. You know, to back up what I'm trying to talk about here, In Kendrick's first diss track against Drake, Euphoria, he says he doesn't want to hear him say the N-word anymore. And some people were criticizing this as like a light-skinned thing. Like, well, light-skinned people can say the N-word. It wasn't a problem of that. And Kendrick made this clear on Meet the Grams when he refers to Drake's son, Adonis, who is tremendously more light-skinned even than Drake, as a black man. Tells him, you're a black man. Really interesting. Makes it clear that this is a Drake problem. It's not a light-skinned problem. It's a Drake problem. He's not allowed to say this word anymore. It's not because he's light-skinned. It's because of the fact that he's obsessed with looking black for marketing reasons. He's obsessed with using black people to give himself legitimacy as an artist in order to, you know, continue to capitalize on, and like everybody who works with him just looks at it as like, well, I'm gonna have the most opportunity if I work for the biggest guy, so I guess I'll go work for Drake. But then you realize like, well, this guy's never gonna give me equal, you know, he's only ever gonna give me his scraps. Like, he's never going to put me on, you know, his level at all. He's always gonna treat everybody like they're beneath him, and eventually you know, you do that to enough people, they're just gonna be fucking sick of it, you know? So I understand why this is happening to Drake now. He just thought he had so much power that he could be as unpleasant as he wanted. And you can never be as unpleasant as you want. There's always a line. There's always some kind of social grace. And I think Drake convinced himself that you could get to a level of money and power where you transcend social grace. There's lots of people who convince themselves that with way less money and power. Look at Ezra Miller, for example. A person who just completely thinks they are allowed to do whatever they want. He just believes that. You know, I don't know why, but that's the upbringing Ezra had led to that mentality. And so, you know, these people, they're easy to use for people who feel the same way that those people do, but understand a little bit more that you can't be so transparent. You know, you can't just be like outwardly a cunt to everyone all the time, because all that power you have is being given to you by those people, and they can take it away. The world can take your power away, but for the most part, we won't. We just won't. Maybe opportunistically, but you know, most people who have power are protecting that power from opportunists. That is the first line of defense they've got, is I'm gonna make sure nobody gets a jump on me. You know, like, that's 101 street knowledge. So if you're protecting yourself and you're making sure nobody gets to jump on you, then, like, you know, all it takes is having the leg up to keep the leg up on other people. But they will do, there are some people who will either die trying to stop you or stop you. And if you have to fight enough of those people, even if you keep killing them, some of them are gonna get hits off on you. You're gonna get weaker, you know, you get old, you die, everybody does. It's just, I think it's truly fruitless to try. Drake should have enjoyed the fact that he had been the #1 and then started trying to empower the next generation. He's old. But some people don't want to admit that. Some people just can't live in their age. They can't move forward, you know. They're like, oh, I haven't done what I wanted to do yet, or whatever. My reign must continue. I'm not ready to stop being this guy, you know. But Drake got to stop being that guy. J. Cole gets no questions. He keeps trying to lil bro K-Dot too. Yeah. It's, you know, J. Cole's a dude who I think... J. Cole's a unique character. I think that dude, when he, like, gets old, is maybe gonna figure something out that he's able to be, like, more interesting. Like... So, I relate to both Kendrick and J. Cole in a way that I definitely don't with Drake. Because I think Drake is legitimately just, like, trying to be the worst guy. You know, like he is just trying to have as much power, exert as much power as possible. I think looking at those video clips from him in his youth, where it just feels like he had a real chip on his shoulder about his mom. Like, I don't know if he just saw her as controlling or whatever, but like, there's this clip where he had asked his mom to like get him a tuna sandwich, I guess, and she comes home with the wrong sandwich, and he just gets like so like in his feelings about not getting the tuna sandwich he wanted, and it's incredibly cringeworthy clip, but it's also very revealing of like the type of personality that he has, of like he really has to get his way or else it's really not okay, and it takes him a while to like recover, you know, from the emotions of not getting it that way. And like, you know, that's, I understand how that personality trait can lead you to you know, getting whatever you want, but again, like there are lines there are clear lines in the sand in society about what it's okay to want, you know, or what it's okay to have. And there's also a lot of forgiveness in society about mistakes, but when you reach a certain age and you keep making the same mistakes, people get fucking tired of it, you know. So that's what I see happening with Drake. But what I was more so trying to get on with this rant is about the gentrification aspect. The idea of Drake being essentially a, you know, whether or not you consider him a white person, a person with a very privileged upbringing, just a very privileged upbringing, who has tried to paint himself as starting from the bottom, being this like gangster archetype, you know, being this guy who hangs out with nothing but other rappers, you know, only black dudes, mostly from Atlanta, like just trying to paint himself as this, you know, this character that looks cool in the eyes of whatever is seen. Basically anybody who has been considered cool, Drake puts himself next to them and he tries to make it look like this person is so cool, they hang out with me, Drake, you know, like that's what he has been doing for the last 10 years. And it's basically how his career started, was that Lil Wayne did the same thing to him. Lil Wayne basically spent the whole 2000s co-signing people by whoever he hung out with. He was just like, this person's hanging out with me. I'm the biggest artist. I'm Lil Wayne. I'm with Drake here, you know? And it worked for him, for Nicki Minaj. So, like, you know, and Lil Wayne is a scary dude. Lil Wayne is not a guy who cares if Drake is a bad guy. He cares that guy's gonna make a whole lot of fucking money, you know? Lil Wayne's a guy who got shot by police when he was like 8, got resuscitated by a white cop, doesn't believe in racism, drinks lean at all times because he's in constant pain, describes, you know, being 12 years old in the studio and being like given prostitutes by the big homies, you know, like basically indoctrinated into a sex cult that is hip-hop. And you know, it's only that like young people listened to this music and took influence from it and thought like, I want to be as famous for being a rapper as that guy was. And it's like, well, that guy he didn't make all that money and have all that fame and influence because he was so talented. It's because somebody at some point was using him to make a lot of money. You know, somebody somewhere along the line was doing some kind of exploitation or extortion to make money off of this talent. But nobody makes that much money just off of the skills. The amount you make off of the skills you can live off of, but you gotta be real careful with how you spend that money, or you'll end up like Danny Brown, where making an album puts you in debt to the studio for forever. He's probably just not gonna pay off the atrocity exhibition debt. You know, so this is the way that I see it, as these, you know, these white executives, they found a guy who they could market to both black and white people, who was willing to push everybody else out of the game and maintain the power balance for the people at the head of Universal. That's why Drake has been shoved down our throats, and it's also why everybody's going to war with him, because they're trying to destabilize that power base. And that's possible because of power comes from everywhere, and there's always new people entering the game. There's always, you know, an ever-shifting culture of what's considered cool. You know, I don't think this Drake takedown would have been possible if Metro Boomin had not decided he had a problem with Drake. That guy is not the, I mean, he's approaching the level of being a legacy rapper or, you know, producer, but he hasn't been around nearly as long as the main people involved in this. And it makes me think that, like, a guy like that getting as powerful as he now is why there are now enough challengers to attack the throne of the guy at the head, you know? This will never happen to Taylor Swift because society, American society, jumps to protect white women, and so she will remain a protected species until the war on white women really begins. It started with the Karen thing. The Karen meme is the beginning of the war on white women. And if you ask Dick Masterson, transgender women are also part of the war on white women. I'm certainly at war with J.K. Rowling. If I get killed, it's probably J.K. Rowling's fault. That bitch is definitely gonna kill me. She's gonna find some way to kill me. If I die, it's because of J.K. Rowling. That's gonna be the name of my next mixtape. If I die, it's because I said that J.K. Rowling deserves anything bad you could think of. Like, there's nothing you could tell me happened to J.K. Rowling and I'd be like, oh, that really sucks. You know? Oh, damn, not J.K. Rowling. No. I'd be like, fuck that bitch. Good. I'm gonna be murdered by J.K. Rowling. I can tell. I can feel it in the air. Please don't kill me, J.K. Rowling. You have so much money. Nothing I say matters. Nobody's gonna do anything to you. Just go on with your fucking trans-hating life. I don't know what you do. What do you do all day that you're spending so much time seething? Fucking go be in a garden. God damn. Get off social media. When Elon Musk is telling you to pump the brakes publicly, I don't know if y'all saw this. Elon Musk told that bitch to smile more. I don't know if you saw that. That was the funniest shit I have seen all month. Maybe funnier than BBL Drizzy. Nah, not that funny. But it was very funny. Fucking J.K. Rowling was posting some transphobic shit again. And Elon Musk was like, I agree with you. I too am transphobic, but could you just maybe talk about anything else for, like, ever, you know? Very fucking funny. She profits from her mid-work. Yeah, I mean, God, it's so sad. Society, J.K. Rowling, same story with Drake. Same exact thing, same exact type of person. Somebody who's willing to kick the ladder out from under them, fuck over everybody else, doesn't do anything for anybody else, just about herself, and, you know, destabilizing the power base of minority groups. She can't attack black people as a white woman, but she sure can attack trans women. So that's where she's at. That's her colonization. Because she colonized into the LGBT community, she's pro-gay but anti-trans, because being pro-gay will get you in with the gay billionaires that already have power, but there's not a trans billionaire yet. So there's no reason to acknowledge trans people in a positive light. It won't get you anywhere. It won't make you any money. Trans people don't have money. All we have is you know, faulty suicide statistics that make us easy to eliminate by those in power. So, you know, like I said, if I die, it's J.K. Rowling. Almost certainly. I'm gonna keep saying that because even if another billionaire does it, I hope she takes the fall. You know, I wouldn't even care. I wouldn't even care if if I was not avenged in the name of taking down J.K. Rowling. She's such a cunt. Ah, what a bitch. Hate her. Hey, I saw another lizard. I've been seeing a lot of lizards. It would be easier to feel sympathetic to trans people if literally one of them wasn't obviously baiting. What are you talking about? Are you talking about me right now? Baiting? I'm not baiting. I think that she should die. Like, the same way Kendrick said about Drake and Weinstein is how I feel about J.K. Rowling and literally anybody that has if you have $1 billion, you are evil. There's just no way. There's no other way. There's nothing you need that much money in the sense of personal wealth. People don't understand that, like, controlling money doesn't require you to have that much money. Getting shit done with money, you don't need to have all the money. Like, people think, like, I'm gonna become a billionaire, and then I can afford to make an anime I want to make. And it's like, fucking, if you had the ability to make $1 billion, you would not make poor investment decisions on dumbass dream projects. You would have the good taste that whatever you were funding would make a lot of money, would have sponsors backing it. You wouldn't have to spend only out-of-pocket money on it. Just, if you're that good of a business person, there's no way you would need that much fucking money. No good business person needs $1 billion unless they're trying to do something fucked up. And you could be on the side of whatever fucked up that is. You know, I don't know what Jay-Z is trying to do, but as far as I can tell, he's just trying to create generational wealth for his family, and is incredibly ruthless in his approach. And he wants other people, he wants a black power base. He's like, hey, let's destabilize the power base. Let's all get rich. Let's create black society and go to war with all these fucking other billionaires. Sure. I'm not gonna take a side in any of those battles because, I mean, if Ye is any evidence, it's just him and it's basically just him and Jay-Z going, hey, we almost made it to the top, but we're not Jewish. So we gotta, you know, there's a house I really want to buy and a Jewish guy owns it. So I'm going to create an entire cultural climate of, you know, anti-Jew suspicion to lower property value in that neighborhood so I can buy that house. Like, that's the level these people are operating on. That is the level of chess game that billionaires have, is like, they're trying to figure out how many $10 million mansions they can buy, and they will literally, like, create a TV show set outside of that mansion to raise the property value on it. Like, you know, it's everything is subservient to the money with these people, and that's why they cannot be trusted. And so when I look at somebody like J.K. Rowling, like, obviously Harry Potter's not that good of a fucking book series. It's just not. I don't think it would have even been as good as it was if not for, you have to consider it was incredibly successful right off the bat. She pumps out the first few books. It's like a fever rush, you know. It's like, fuck, I'm doing it. It's hitting. We're in. We're locked in, you know. And then they start making movies, and the movies are hugely successful. And now it's like, you need to finish this book series. You need to, you know, wrap it up, make sure the story, you know, has a proper ending and everything. And she did it. And, like, I can praise the fact that the story is, like, coherent and comes to an end, but it's not good, you know. Like, most of it's wasted space. There's not that much depth thematically in the characterization. There's not a lot of realism. People who are really into Harry Potter are divorced from reality. So, like, they will sit there and tell you about all the depth in Harry Potter, and you'll listen to it like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, that means nothing. All those things you're saying, you can get that out of, you can get a deeper version of that out of, like, other media for children, you know, like there's nothing special about it. There was a time, God, I remember when I was 14 years old, and at the time I generally was pro Harry Potter. I wasn't anti Harry Potter. I thought it was all right. You know, I read the first 2.5 books as a kid. I gave up halfway through the third book because I thought it was just boring. And then I saw the first movie, and I saw the fourth movie in theater. And when I saw it with my dad afterwards, he was like, "Oh, it's so imaginative. Like, she's just got such an imagination." And I was like, "What the fuck are you talking about? Literally everything in the Harry Potter universe has been done in other stories already. It's just like dragons and like Parn and fucking like the most unique thing is like the GIF photos, basically. Like the fact that like the newspaper is a television, which is just like a sci-fi idea redone in magic. Like it's not that creative at all." So even as a 14-year-old, I looked at Harry Potter as like a generally generic. That's why it's so broadly appealing. But like as soon as something rises to the top, there are always people who look at it like now it is meaningful. Like now it's taken on extra meaning because it's so popular. You know, never mind that at any given time, whatever is most popular is different. So like that's why it's pop. It's a bubble with a pop. It blows up really big and then it pops. And at some point, people started regarding pop media as like important. And I agree with that. I agree with the notion that it's important, but it's not always important for good reasons. Drake's music is important, but a lot of why it's important is bad. It's inspired people to be worse. The kinds of people who are really into Drake are bad people. And I'm not saying everybody who listens to Kendrick Lamar is a great person. I'm just saying that like I think you can listen to that music and better yourself. And I don't know if you can do that with Drake's music. Unless, I mean, no, you know what? I changed my mind. You can, but only because it's not sincerely written by him, and because broadly what people get out of music is usually pretty simple. Like, I saw a video that made the point that, like, there's a, you know, non-English speaking wrestler from another part of the world who really relates to Started from the Bottom and God's Plan, pretty much just because of the titles. You know, like the lyrical content of the songs has so little to do with what they actually are saying in the title, but those titles are striking and meaningful, and because the industry put that music in everybody's ears that listens to the genre at all, it was easily discoverable. But like those sentiments did not come from Drake. They came from writers who understand what is relatable and transcendent, and they all put that to the top to create this, you know, this mega hit, which wouldn't necessarily be a problem if Drake was a great guy and he was redistributing that wealth and, you know, making, you know, a rising tide should raise all ships. But if someone's drinking the water, if somebody's putting a big straw in the ocean and sucking it all up so they could spray it into a gambling machine, then nobody gets anything, you know. Harry Potter is isekai. It is very much isekai. I would say Harry Potter is a huge influence on the isekai boom. Huge influence on the isekai boom. Kid from his regular life gets whisked away to a magical world of fantasy. Yeah, it is pretty much why there has been an isekai boom. I'm not going to say Harry Potter isn't tremendously influential and successful, but I don't think it had to be. I don't think that something else couldn't have had as meaningful an influence. I think culture could have maybe been more exciting without isekai, without Harry Potter. You know, lots of good things have come from its influence because it was seen by everybody. But it was pushed to everybody because it was popular, and there became a vested interest in maintaining that popularity. And the person who was in charge of the property was willing to do whatever it took to make it as big as possible. And you have to consider, like, for instance, think about all the Harry Potter games there are, right? Like, Hogwarts Legacy was such a huge deal because it was the first time that one of those games seemed like it was, like, sincerely trying to be really good. Like, they were trying to make a good Harry Potter game. And that's only because the IP was already legacy and beloved at that point. But the road to getting there was creating just shovelware on every console, constantly, for every generation. You know, tons and tons of games were released, tons of side media, tons of stuff that dilutes the brand and makes it more genericized. But it was at a level where none of that hurt it. Like, people just wanted the Harry Potter concept so badly that it stayed on top. And so no amount of, I guess I'll give some credit to the IP owners that they have managed to keep it relevant for so long. But, like, again, this is at the cost of not promoting something else, not creating, a diverse and competitive suite of IP that people could care about and pick and choose their favorites, but instead having, every voice cry out to Harry Potter at the top, and giving all this power to somebody who clearly wants to use that power to make social change. And the social change that she wants to make is destabilizing trans people for some reason. Ice cream man. There's an ice cream man. It's quite fucking loud, actually. Stephanie Meyer is also evil. I believe it. I don't know anything about her, but I mean, again, it's a matter of, like, taste and class and intention, right? Some people think that it's just natural to want to try to make as much money as possible. But you don't need as much money as possible. And when you actually get to having, like, a stable amount, and you realize, like, oh, I'm living my life off of my creativity, like, do you want to be remembered for being the most successful artist? Or do you want to be remembered for being the best? Or even just the most true to yourself, like the best version of yourself? The one that didn't let your work get diluted and have its meaning changed, or have it, like, Rowling is the type of person her story is so open to interpretation that she keeps reinterpreting it. She's changing the fucking canon and lore through fucking tweets, all for political reasons. Oh, Gandalf is gay. Now I've got points with the gay community. There's no trans characters in my story, though, because I fucking hate those people. Like, she's just she's more concerned about her place in the cultural narrative than she is about the quality of her story or what it means or anything like that. Its meaning is that it can make her rich. That's what Harry Potter means. It's a great story to copy if you want to make something generic that will make you money. And I think that's why it's, like, such a bad look when something like High Guardian Spice got made, where I think there was a lot of sincerity in trying to create, like, we're gonna make a trans Harry Potter, but it's like, you just shouldn't. Like, Harry Potter is conceptually bunk. Like, it's the most, like, accessible idea that you can think of, and I don't think that's necessarily good. I think people get this headspace of, like, global communion when the thing they like is very popular. When it's like you bandwagon jump and you feel like, oh, well, billions of people like it, so I'm now connected to billions of people, and it's false. It's a false feeling of togetherness where you are just, you're granting to yourself a feeling of kinship with people that actually you'd probably hate, or just you're empowering an idea that itself is not going to do anything for you. The idea of Harry Potter is just going to trap you in a fantasy. A lot of people like that. I can't stand those fucking people. Harry Potter fans, not my type of people. I gotta pee, so I'm gonna mute myself. Somebody super chat me a rant request. I'm running dry. All right, I'm back. Looks like we've got super chat from Gary Always for $5. Says, I highly recommend reading Hussey's VN Psycholonials. It's free on mobile, 5 hours long, and it's about fandoms as cults. Very good stuff. Libely. I will. I did not know about that at all. That sounds interesting. Andrew Hussey is one of my favorite creators based on Homestuck and everything he had done before Homestuck. Going back to those Star Trek TNG parody videos. But I haven't really checked out anything he's done since Homestuck. And I actually never finished Homestuck. Psycholonials. Yeah, that sounds cool. Cool name. Sounds like it has something to do with colonizing as well, which is kind of the subject I've been on in this video. But yeah, anybody who wants me to talk about anything, you send along a super chat and I'll give it a big old rant for you. I'll go on and on. I can't fucking shut up. When I see money, I feel compelled to speak. But on the subject of gentrification, I live in Norfolk, and I'm really fascinated because Norfolk is a place that is rapidly gentrifying right now. You know, I grew up mostly in Virginia Beach, which is kind of just a big suburb. There's not really any like dense city area. There's a few places that are fairly hood in Virginia Beach, but it's not like a particularly dangerous. Actually, it's one of the safer cities in America. But Norfolk, which is right next to Virginia Beach and has a dense city center, has some really dangerous hoods. Some places where when the sun goes down, people start getting shot. Now, most of this is, you know, drug, gang-related type crime, but you know, it's all in like a couple of dense pockets of Norfolk, which is a huge. Every part of Hampton Roads, which is like 5 or 6 cities that are all close together. Each of those cities is fucking massive, way bigger than the average American city. Each one is like the size of the average American metropolitan area. They're not dense like that though. Like they have little dense pockets, but most of it's super intersected by rivers, which is why the land area is so big. So in the case of Norfolk, there are parts of it, like where I'm at right now, that are much nicer than other parts. But where I live in particular, Ward's Corner, which is a big old district, is interesting in that it's like half and half. Like it's in the process of being gentrified right now. And my family sort of represents a part of this. Because the house we're living in is a brand new house built in a neighborhood that is like totally random split between like brand new houses and very old houses, of all different shapes, sizes, costs, and all kinds of people live in the neighborhood. It's very much a diverse place in every sense, but it's nice. Like walking around the neighborhood, it's nice, it's quiet, it's got this big ass park with all these biking paths through it that I go on walks through in these videos, and we're close to an even nicer neighborhood that I went on a walk through in that Oceanside neighborhood video vlog. But at the very end of that, or like I guess it would be halfway through, at the end of the walk before I turned back, there's like a little tiny segment of what obviously looks like the hood, like right there at the edge of the nice neighborhood right before you get to the beach, you know. And there's just all these little pockets of that all around Norfolk, just little pockets of, oh shit, I'm in the hood now, you know? And like the road we live on is like the major road that's nearby all these neighborhoods is like dangerous. Like it's a place where people get shot. It's a place where people are always hanging out. There's always it just always feels like a hot block, you know? Whereas the neighborhoods are chill as fuck, that are like right there, you know. It's a trip. It is a trip how dystopian and cyberpunk American cities really are, where like if you can't afford anything except for to live in the hood, it's very hard to get out because you physically are not safe to leave your house. You know, like the people around you are not safe to get involved with. Like as soon as you start making money, your first goal is typically to get out of the hood, or if you have a lot of money in the hood, it's because you're trying to be hood rich, basically, you know, have a lot of power within that community, which is a dangerous place to have a lot of power. It draws a target on your back. So, you know, so that's why they call it the trap. Also, you know, it is literally a trap. It's hard to physically leave the hood. So even if you made all that money and then you step out your front door, get shot, and get it all taken, you know, like it's hard to be in that situation. But these hoods are steadily getting dismantled, where people just can no longer afford to even live in the city at all because you know, people buy out the land, they raise the rent, they push the tenants out, and then they build new, more expensive places on top of that and move in richer tenants. Now, the thing about this is that when you build those bigger houses, single family houses on top of what used to be a place that 20, you know, people were living in 4 small apartments, like it basically means that 20 people are displaced into a new living situation and have to figure their whole lives out again, while somebody else assumably is moving up in life into that spot that those people used to have and turning it into something else that suits them. That's what gentrification is. And so it's happening right here in Norfolk. You know, I don't know the consequences under which the house was torn down that our house was built in the place of. It was literally newly built. My parents are vegans, so when they spend money, they don't spend it in the community. You know, they live in Ward's Corner, but there are no vegan options because this is kind of a ghetto area, or it used to be. You know, it's on the come up. So part of that is there's a Kroger, like there's a fancy grocery store by comparison to other ones, was built here like within the last 5 years. And so like that is a representation of just people have more money that are living in this area than they did. And it also draws people with more money into the area because poor people could not afford to shop at Kroger, you know? But my parents, being that they're vegan, my dad is grocery shopping all the way fucking uptown at, you know, a place that has vegan options. When they go out to eat, they're going uptown to places that have vegan options. You know, the money is not going back into the community. So they can afford to not have to walk through the hood, you know, because again, our neighborhood is not really the hood. It's nice, but you have to pass through the hood to get anywhere. But if you're in a car, that's no big deal, you know? So it's like just the ability to get in a car and drive past the hood to the vegan option is enough to keep your presence out of that danger and also keep the money out of that place, which keeps driving people out. Not necessarily a good thing. Definitely not good for the people already there. Now, if you're me and Bird, who don't have any money but live with my parents, you do go to the hood. You do go and spend your money at the local businesses because they're cheap and you can afford to eat at, you know, the inexpensive hood food. It's actually very good. You know, you just have to be willing to be in those places. And I don't even think that my parents wouldn't be, it's just that they're vegan, you know? But like the ability to be vegan is dependent on you having the car to drive out of your hood to the vegan spot. Don't got a car, can't be vegan here. Could not live in this neighborhood and be vegan if you couldn't drive. So, you know, or you could, but it would be a different experience. It wouldn't be the expensive vegan experience. All right, I gotta answer the super chat. Cosmic Blue with $10. Thank you so much. Sorry it took me so long to respond. I was really on one there. Speaking of Harry Potter, what did you think of Iruma-kun? I wish I'd watched it mid or in high school. Probably would have had different outlook on making friends. Any shows that make you feel that? I don't know Iruma-kun, but there are shows that have changed my outlook on being myself, I guess. I would say Haruhi was a big one for me, because when I was in high school, I was thinking about this earlier today, that Haruhi has not aged very well as an anime. Like, going back and trying to watch it now, I don't enjoy it nearly as much as I used to. But I have seen, like, still to this day, there's like 16-year-olds who go watch Haruhi and have their mind just totally blown. And I think the effectiveness of that is partly dependent on whether you've seen a lot of stuff that's been influenced by it since or not. But I remembered that at the time, what was immediately revolutionary about Haruhi when you started up the first real episode after the weird prologue one, actually it's kind of true even in the prologue, but it's the speed of Kion's monologue. It's the fact that this guy is inwardly thinking at all times through the show. And that was like the first hook for me, because I think that much. I've got a constant train of thought going. It speaks a little bit faster than natural dialogue. And so that like lightly sped up monologuing that Kion always does, like that was the first thing that made the show relatable, because it's like, wow, a show is representing the way I think. And I didn't realize that that's not the way everybody thinks at the time. I just thought that's how thinking is. And so to me, it was like, wow, a show that finally did thinking right, not realizing that it's a little bit more unique than that. It's a show that does my thinking right. And then that was kind of doubled down on once we actually get into the backstory of Haruhi herself, the character, because like she only really gets into like how she became this way a little bit later into the show, but she explains that there was a period where like she's in a football stadium, she sees like 50,000 people and they all just look so identical, and she feels so small that she feels like she has to do something to stand out, or like, you know, basically empower her own individuality. Hello. Bikers. First time I've actually seen people using the path for biking that I walk on for these. Anyway, Haruhi, like, you know, she's trying to stand out because she realized that people were so similar. And like, when I was young, I think I was 15 when I watched Haruhi. I felt similarly, but less. I didn't feel like that sense of, oh, I'm just another face in the crowd. I felt like, oh my god, everybody else is the same and I'm different. You know, like it wasn't like something I was trying to do on purpose. It was just something that had happened incidentally. But in that same way that Haruhi just decides, like, I'm just gonna be, you know, I'm gonna be wholly myself and be everything that's unique about me. That was something that I took a lot of, you know, influence from. And maybe I was already like that inwardly, you know, or with the people that I did know, but it made me want to be more outwardly bombastic, you know, the kind of person who would do a show like this, you know, the kind of person who could be a live streamer. And like, watching the show now, Haruhi's level of arrogance and narcissism and bullying is like just exhausting. It's just like, oh man, she's kind of a fucking terrible person. Like, you know, watching it as an adult, it's hard for me to enjoy her antics because I would not want to be around her. And it's funny that as a kid I saw her as like charismatic because the show makes her charismatic, you know. I mean, aside from the fact that she's very attractive, you know, the show's going out of its way to show you its good side, and it has Kion warming up to her and their romance, and there's just a lot of stuff that when I was young endeared me to the characters that when I was an adult I'm like, yeah, but none of that changes the fact these characters are fucking annoying, you know. Even Kion, like, he's just an enabler. He's not, he kind of comes off spineless to me now in a way that as a kid I would have thought he was manly compared to me, you know. But watching the show now, I'm like, oh wow, he's a kind of a fucking little bitch, you know. So oh hey, a transphobe in the chat, let's ban him. Get out of here. You're not allowed. How do I... Yeah, hide user on this channel. Goodbye. You're done, son. Why would you ever show up to this channel with that kind of shit? That's just baffling. like just sticking your hand up and going, ban me, please ban me. I need ban. I guess it's one way to get attention. What was I talking about? Yeah, Haruhi. Kind of a bitch. So hard to return to the show. But it had that effect on me, and I'm sure there's other examples. That's the one that really comes to mind, just because of the fact that when I was in high school, I had a couple of friends, and my friends would like come over to my house to hang out and stuff. But I was very introverted. I didn't really talk to people in school. I didn't do any clubs or anything like that. But after Haruhi, I created a film and animation club, and I would like wear the headband and the armband, because I had the special edition DVDs that came with that shit, and you know, do like little presentations before we watched each film. So you know, I feel like I was trying to embody Haruhi. That was like my idea of just being so over the top, so ruthlessly yourself, that it comes all, like it boomerangs around to being charismatic. And I would very much say that that's the attitude and persona I've taken throughout my career. But I've also changed as a person, where being very much myself it doesn't mean being a totally obnoxious cunt. At least I hope not. Because, you know, I do care about how other people feel. Unlike Haruhi, who really just doesn't. Like, that's her issue. She just doesn't care how other people feel. Later, Ellen. Have a good one. We're hitting turbulence. That's funny. This person who said, you have a cook in mouth. Did they mean cock? Or, I mean, when I have a cock in my mouth, it's usually a cook's cock. So there is that. Alright. Did I finish my gentrification rants? Yeah, I just have been thinking a lot about the destabilization of power, the way that people can continue, like right now the biggest thing that's fucking with Americans is the inability to own property. That like the people who want to own everything have just been buying all of the property and just basically pricing people out of living anywhere good. I don't know. I feel like with billionaires, they're always trying to like curb costly population. Like there must be people whose existence costs more than it generates revenue. Like I know that can't be me. I know somebody's making money off of what I do because my message is too powerful for it to not make anyone anything, but it's also too powerful to make me any money, because if I started making money, it would paint too much of a target on my back, you know? As long as they can keep me just giving it away for free, you know? Giving my messages out there, placating the masses with my dulcet tones for meager scraps of an allowance, you know? Making the poor people... I wish you guys didn't have to pay me anything. You know, if I didn't need to, if I was popular enough to just make money from advertisers, then, you know, I could truly give it away for free and not have to task my audience to pay me. But the reality is that if I want to stay on message and say the things I want to say, that's probably never going to happen. I'm never going to be advertiser friendly. Never going to be rich people who have money friendly. So the only way I can do it is, you know, being granted power by people who think I should have it. Even if it's just the power to eat my next meal. At the very least, you have all granted me that power. And so I thank you infinitely. My battery's starting to get low, and it's getting close to time for a bird to get home and for us to go out to go camping. So I'm going to start heading home. And I'll probably be ending this live stream very soon. Basically, as soon as I, you know, get anywhere near my neighborhood. Just take the bag. I would be happy for the content creators I like that give me free entertainment become successful. I want the bag, but I don't know how to, like, playing ball basically means protecting people's secrets. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to be protecting people's secrets, you know? I felt skeezy when I was at Crunchyroll Expo, you know, even though I could have been a lot meaner to everyone. Like, they were having conversations. I'll talk about this eventually, but like, you know, just the kind of shit that people, the kind of information that people are just like tossing around, you know, because they want to know you can keep a secret. I told Miles from Crunchyroll that I could not keep a secret. I told him, don't tell me anything you don't want repeated, because you know, I shouldn't have said that. I should have let him tell me everything, and then, you know, kept the cards close to my chest until such a day I needed them played. But that's not how it went. So, you know, here I am. But, you know, I think it's that I don't need that much. I don't need the bag the way that someone like Jeff Do does, you know? Where, like, when I met that guy, he was very proud of the money he was making. And I was like, well, that's cool, but, like, we're here to make art, you know? We're here to have fun making things, not just, like, make as much. Like, making money is cool. It's a great side effect of making cool stuff when you can make money off of it. But it's not the goal. The goal is just, like, having enough money to do cool things. So that's my goal. You know, I just want to have enough expendable income that when I have a cool idea, I can go do it. And my ideas are never expensive because I'm a fucking cheapskate, you know? Which might be part of the problem. People who have bigger ambitions, you know, people who want to throw around money tend to be better at going and getting it. You know, like, if you're Mr. Beast and you're like, I want to fucking build an obstacle course and I want to make people fucking, you know, choose who gets to live and die in the obstacle course or whatever, then I need to have $100,000. How am I going to make that? You know, I don't have that. I don't have those expensive ideas. I tend to like ideas because they're not expensive. Like, I want to do things because I could do it by myself, because it would only be a matter of time and effort and would not be a matter of money. I just don't like trading in money. I feel really uncomfortable with the way that people regard money. Like, people are so precious. Everybody reviews it as, like, there has to be an exchange. There has to be equivalent exchange. And, like, I don't think you can really accomplish that in life. So, like, creating this whole system where, especially with art, like, how the fuck do you create equivalent exchange with art, you know? What's great about the whole super chat system is that it's a little bit more incidental and emotionally driven. It's like people are either just like, I'm having a good time and I've got a little extra money, so now it's yours, you know? Or they're like, I'm burning to hear your thoughts on this topic and I got a little extra money, so it's yours. And like, I like that. That's fun for me. I don't like how much of a take YouTube gets, but I like the convenience of the system they've set up, so I'm willing to pay in. Alright, I'm gonna end the stream now. Too many cars. See you later.